Shalom and welcome to Challenging Torah. We are in Vayigash, the crucial point of the Joseph story. As we know, Joseph has become second in command of all of Egypt, and his brothers have come down at a time of famine. In last week's portion, he took Simon as a hostage, sent the brothers back, and said, "Do not let me see your faces unless your brother Benjamin is with you." They go back to their father Jacob, who says, "Absolutely not. I have only one son left of the beloved Rachel, and no." But of course, Judah understands that as hunger and famine ravage the land, eventually even Jacob will say, "Go. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved." And Judah says that he will stand as surety, as collateral for the boy. When our story opens, Joseph has tricked the brothers one more time. He has put Benjamin's cup back into a sack, captures it, and says, "Well, I get to keep as a slave the one who has stolen my cup." And at first Judah said, no, we'll all stay. And Joseph said, "No, I just want the one who has stolen the cup." And at that point, this is the moment, Vayigash, that we come to the place where we deal from a place of deep, deep truth. Vayigash alav Yehuda v'yomer bi Adonai, and he comes up to him. He comes close to him and says, "Please, sir," or "In me is Adonai," or Adoni. And we have the most impassioned speech in Torah. And he starts by telling the story of the slavery of the brothers and how they went back and how they told the father. And as he continues to tell the story, he says, the boy cannot leave his father. If he were ever to leave his father would die. And bit by bit, Judah spins the tale. The sages say it's like taking threads and tying them together and lowering a rope into a pit to bring up the water. He doesn't go all at once, but bit by bit, he comes into the presence of Joseph. And Joseph, hearing the story of his father, finally breaks into tears. V'lo etapek yoter. He cannot hold it back, sends away the Egyptians, looks Judah in the face and says, "I am Joseph. Is my father still well?" Wow. These are the most touching lines in all of Torah. How did we get here? We got here through a process of stripping away everything but truth. Of course, we say, well, maybe Joseph understood that Judah now takes responsibility and the brothers behave considerate towards each other, unlike their behavior towards him. I don't think so. I think it's about truth faces truth. Judah goes in, Sfat Emet says, Vayigash alav. He goes into himself, and he speaks with all his heart. The sages remind us that Judah has lost 2 children. It's not the same Judah who took the brother out of the well. Why should we just sell him? Kill him. We could sell him, right? And sells him into slavery. It's not the same man. Judah has managed to fulfill his essential being. He grows. At the same time, Joseph grows. Joseph, let us remember, has been sitting garbed in robes, has a child named Amnesia, basically. I don't want to remember my father's house. Has taken on a whole new persona, but inside, he's still Joseph, the little boy who was left in a pit and who never saw his father again. And that Joseph who has to have a measure of guilt for never calling home, never letting his father know where and what he is, strips off of his masks, just as the coat was stripped off of him, and says, Ani Yosef, is my father still well? I am Joseph. This is the turning point. And it takes attentive listening and empathy. Joseph really listens to Judah, as Judah has really listened and been empathetic to his father. And this is what makes the story turn. And so he then turns to the brothers, and it's not like he lets them off the hook totally. And he says to them, I am Joseph, the one who you sold into slavery in Egypt. It's not forgiven. It's not forgotten. It's just that Joseph is willing to let it go to the next level. Don't worry yourselves, he says. It is for your sakes that God sent me here. And of course, he's thinking about the famine and the fact that now the entire family will be saved. And he reassures them they're not comfortable. There isn't a, I forgive you and I'm so sorry. We don't hear any of that. They weep and fall on each other and hug and weep. And Joseph is able to elevate the entire conversation by saying, it's God who sent me here to save you. And of course, Joseph doesn't even know the greater boundaries of the story, which are that only in this way will this family come down to Egypt, and they will be the Israelites who are given another 200 years of slavery, but then are freed and go to Sinai and receive the Ten Commandments. This is God's plan. But it's not enough for God to have a plan. Human beings need to change. And that's where the intersection happens. And so Judah changes. And Joseph is willing to own who he really is. So of course he can't keep back his tears. Lo tapek. And he cries. It's tears that open the gates always. And then of course they go back and they tell Jacob, who at first doesn't believe it, but finally says, yes, let's go to Egypt. And he stops on the way, offers a sacrifice, and God says, don't worry, I will go with you. And finally he gets there, looks at Joseph and says, now I can die having seen your face. It's quite a story. And it's a story that requires empathy. As we look at our lives today, family situations, situations of forgiveness, even when the other person doesn't say, I'm sorry, which is what we always want. Just to forgive and look at the bigger picture. Even in the Middle East today, we need to listen attentively to each other's stories. Not forgive, not accept, but just listen. Empathetic human beings change the course of history. Shabbat Shalom.